myself. Shame on that.
Leave your humanity outside. Just a hard wall that you hit up against.
Shit is always going to clog pipes. We're in the business of unclogging consciousness pipes.
Hey, travelers.
Talking very directly about what is happening in the world around us. This is the work we do, right? We are involved in a case at present. I, as a developmental and behavioral counselor who is working to help a young mother of 3, right?
Yeah.
One, an adult son, one a son in high school, one a son just in middle school. And this woman is desperate. This woman is lost. But this woman is also angry. This woman is furious with how she's been treated, how she's been subjugated, how she has been oppressed, how she has been counted out over and over and over and over again. You can jump in any time in terms of how this may be resonating with you. Well, come
Right?
on. I mean, you know this woman. We're talking about her anonymously because it's an ongoing case. And yet we're getting into today's idea of justice, injustice, the lack of justice, the void of justice, no justice, no peace. This conversation should just begin in this place of institutions, of courts and state attorneys and public defenders and law enforcement and even the marketplace of the city that she lives in, which has individuals who are people who hold positions of privilege and power. And it's power, it's privilege, it's authority, and it's single mom, 3 kids versus, right? So like the showdown, right? So tell me how that feels. What is that idea of a single mom like in the showdown?
The idea of a single mom in the showdown, I don't know. The thing is that I don't think it should be a showdown, but unfortunately it is. For me, it was trying to provide for my kids, like just have a life that was not like constant struggle, constant like getting, tossed here and there. And when I go to get help from like the place that you're supposed to go, you're in this situation, you go here and you deal with it. And a lot of times there's just a very hard wall that you hit up against, of like, leave your emotions outside, leave your humanity outside. Don't expect us to show you any type of empathy. And it's all kind of just made to shame you for wanting consideration.
We can't just ride right past the initial barrier, right? Like, I mean, because that's the place that we hit up against. That's the place that we and other partners that we work with are trying to dwell in and occupy and try and, help and deal from a human development perspective is where you and I come in from developmental work and behavioral work that I do to peer developmental work and really, strong, relational, intuitive, empathetic, partnering work that's very real for you because you are, in fact, just like this woman that we're, working with right now. There are a lot of mirrors that you get with her, right? And that's why it works. That's why she's connecting with you, and it's helping in that particular space. And yet, as you've said, as you share her experiences that have brought her to where she is, your experiences that brought you to where you are, there are these walls that you hit up against, and it's weird that often the wall that you smash up against that stops you dead in your tracks usually has a name. It's representative of an institution. It has a name that says blah 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 service, or blah service administration, or the Department of blah 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 services. Do you feel served? Do you feel served economically? Do you feel served in terms of healthcare? Do you feel served in terms of education, in terms of transportation to be able to be mobile in your life for your children and for yourself, to work and to keep steady patterns of living? How's all that working?
No, I don't feel served. I feel completely underserved, honestly. And I've had to, I didn't want to normalize being underserved or things not working, but I also can't just be in a panic, live in a constant state of uproar, and panic like I have. But, so I try to have some sort of balance with that and not freak out every time, this is not working, go figure. And you would think that after a while you could just guess the pattern, but you can't, because once you feel like you have a hold on it, then something else changes. And it doesn't leave you feeling balanced or serviced. It leaves you feeling crazy, because if I am to bring that up, how something's not working, then, what I can look forward to is more judgment and people pointing the fingers.
It's interesting, right? You've mentioned this idea that there are shifting parameters, right? I liked how you said it, just when you figure out the pattern, it changes. That we're talking about a massive institutional conglomerate, right? There's lots of different institutions that are all intertwined, and yet they're all disconnected. And, oh, well, you didn't sign this, you have to go over there, but they sent me over here to you. Well, I don't know what to tell you. All that, everybody knows it. And they know it in different ways. They know it maybe in ways where it's I hate going to the DMV. And that is, maybe a space of privilege when that's the only bureaucracy that you have to deal with. But if you have to deal with bureaucracy in the space of things that very directly and very imminently affect your life, like whether the electricity stays on, whether these things are paid, because those are assisted services in one's life. But that can't just be, oops, I forget about it, because that means we don't cook dinner that night. That means we can't stay there. That means that can't get done. And it's even at larger levels. That means, let's say, because there are people who have a very unclear understanding of poverty, in the sense that if you're living in economic distress, your complaint could be that the subsidization you've received to pay the electric bill, right? But those people were late and it didn't go through, and now this is off. And maybe what's happening is, oh no, my kid can't finish his math homework online, which is from the school, right? Or I can't do my work, or I can't do this that we're doing here. Right. Well, the lights just went out. Well, too bad, podcast, right? It's that kind of thing. And yet those lines are always moving, and there's no easy way to self-empower to challenge that, because where do you even do it? Is it up at this level? Is it this level? Is it this asshole that just was having a bad day? In the sense that you can't just, because you can't just drop an axe on that person, which people often try to do, because that's just, they're worried about why their wife is leaving them, and not so worried about you, because, hey, I got problems too, and they're not they're not superheroes, even though they're working in a place that's supposed to serve human need, right? But that's a job, for most people. So there was that, but then there's also spaces of authority where you can go, where you're supposed to go. And there are barriers there. There are specific barriers, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about those barriers. Tell me about people in positions of authority and how they've been barriers for you. What have they been like?
Oh gosh, when you ask me this, I'm just like trying to think from which direction, which head do I think from? Like, like what authority are, I guess we're talking specifically about like agency with agencies.
Right. Yeah, let's think about it as the agency boss. That's the person, right?
Yeah.
It's at the point where you're like, I got to go over your head because this isn't getting done. And you're taking a stance of empowerment. You're taking a stance of like, I've gone to some of my community members and asked around, and we've developed a stance. Like maybe we're all going together, right? And if you do that, then you get to the agency boss. So if it's in an RPG, if it's in a game, you got through all the skeletons and swords, and now suddenly you're at the like, they may not be the big thing, but they're the first boss. They're like, "What's up? You're not getting past here," and you may go to critical damage before you can get through that one, right? So that's the idea. Like this agency boss.
Yeah.
Why are they such a struggle?
Yeah, I think about it too sometimes. It's like when you bring an issue to someone like that is in a position of authority, like you can notice sometimes how perturbed they are, like that you're insulting their job. And it's just like, but isn't it your job to take these complaints? Like, I don't want to hurt your feelings. I just want to be served. And this is not serving me. So I have to tell you. But that is usually met with like you humble recipient are not supposed to challenge this.
Yeah, even though their daily mantra when they get to work should be like when they meet you and say, "Oh, hello, Miss Johnson. I am so-and-so, the director of getting shit done for you," right? Like it should be that level of acceptance, So anyway, that's the kind of thing that is occurring in a lot of different spaces. It's occurring in the space of our friend and client who's going through the challenges that she's facing. And her agency boss, that is a barrier, happens to be twofold. She's had to fight two bosses, right? So she's fighting a position of power in the judiciary, in the space of a judge, and she's fighting an authority in the position of more like what you had said, the person who's supposed to really not only serve her, but be a protector, which is literally called a public defender. Right, just so you know, like when they're like defenders assemble, it's like it's like you're supposed to be a hero, man, right? Like
yes.
So here's what I'm going to posit. Here's what we can posit here, right? There's a lot of stuff. You can see it all over, social media, all over Instagram, all over Twitter. 5 signs that your husband's a narcissist, 10 ways to tell whether your work boss, as in this article that we're looking at right now, is a narcissist, right? Yeah. So everybody knows about narcissists and it's overdiagnosed. Everyone's like, oh, they're a narcissist. And it's usually anytime you hit the wall of not being able to come to an agreement about something, you can now say the other person's a narcissist. I've been called a narcissist over and over again, right? By everybody that disagrees with something. But there are still some ideas, especially when we think from an intersectional lens, about whether or not we can tell or whether or not we can apply a model that's used over here to over here. So let's say that we are person in need, right? In community, person in need. And we are going to all the places where we are feeling apprehensive about going there. It's a challenge. We know what this has been like. We've been there 100 times before, and 99 of those times have been not so good. So this time I need something. This is a lifeline for me. And there are even places in culture and society. I'm already going with this idea that most of societies, you are useless. You can't pick yourself up by your bootstraps and get things done in your life. And it's all that. And you're like, right, but this thing is positioned as giving me help so that I can not worry about hunger, death, illness, homelessness, so I can worry about training for a job and making my kids be successful in school, like, right, to better oneself. Like, why can't those people better themselves? We're trying, bitch.
I was saying, yeah, we're trying to outline that for you right now, why it's not working.
Yeah.